Thank you all for being on the line. I see we have several of our principals on the line, and so I'll just jump in, and then we'll have a conversation with you all as well, parents. So, you know, our whole focus as we start this school year off, and I know we all have been watching the news and looking at the media over the last couple of years, and just you all are aware of what has happened and what is happening in our society. And so as we begin to have conversations actually in the spring about the new school year, and actually also in the month of June about the new school year, we begin to look at really what can we do from a procedural standpoint, from rule standpoint, what can we do to really ensure or at least increase the likelihood that we have a safe start. And so what we're going to talk about today, I know the title says a safe start for middle and high, but really a safe start for all levels, but the primary focus will be on our middle and high schools. And so as we go throughout the day, the things that we have on the agenda, so I know you can see the slide, but the main thing is we want to have a conversation around these enhanced safety protocols. And again, I want to be real clear. I know that you all send your children to us on a daily basis, and you'll be sending your most prized possession, for lack of a better word, to us every day. And so we know that. And so one thing we want to make sure is that we're able to send them back home to you, educated, with choices and opportunities. But the most important thing is we want to make sure that we're able to educate them in the safest, most secure environment that we can create. And so we believe it's our responsibility to ensure that we have these safety protocols in place, or at least that we've reviewed the protocols, and that we're doing what we're doing today is having conversations about how we can make those protocols even better. And so what I also recognize is that no one thing is going to be the only thing that we do. We'll do a myriad of factors, but the things we're going to be talking about today are things that we're either refining, we're enhancing, or we're just really paying a lot more attention to going forward. And so we definitely want to make sure that you recognize that this is not all we're doing, but these are things that we believe will help us to be more safe and deliver on our commitment to you. The 6 items, again, See-Thru Backpacks. I recognize that we made a decision, and there's been some concerns. And so what I want to do today is really focus on the concerns and come up with some solutions. Again, the See-Thru Backpack policy is for 6th through 12th grade, the secondary. And so we want to make sure we clarify that this is only a secondary modification. But again, we want to talk through your concerns. We want to acknowledge some of the mistakes that I made in this situation, and then figure out how we can move forward. The other thing we want to talk about is really last semester, we piloted the use of metal detectors at North Crowley. We actually used metal detectors at all of our athletic events that were at the stadium and at some of the other athletic events that were on campus. And so we're going to continue to talk about how we're going to build on those things to make sure that any kind of a foreign object that could pose a threat to our students and to our safety, that we can identify quickly, or at least reduce the likelihood that people would want to bring them to campus. Also, we know that bullying is a key issue that we have to be on top of and in front of. And so we want to talk to you today, parents and students, about anti-bullying initiative that we'll have this school year, and really want to make sure that you're clear about what you can do to report when that happens, and really some things you can do at home as well. Student IDs. Student IDs is something that we've had in this district probably for over 10 years. We just want to make sure that you're aware, parents, of what our process is with student IDs. We know that being able to identify our students is critical, is paramount. And so we want to really talk about the consistent enforcement of student IDs this year. Dress code, we made some slight modifications to dress code. We want to really just reiterate dress code changes, enhancements, and those that could impact you all. We want you to know about those. And then future discussions about safety on our campus. We want to engage you into that conversation, hear from you, and also let you know what we're thinking. So these are the 6 items that we want to talk about today. And so if there are other items that you think that you'd like for us to have a conversation around, please take a second to drop those other items in the chat. Again, we welcome the conversation. What we recognize is that safety is everyone's responsibility. And so we definitely recognize that. And so we welcome any other conversations around safety that you'd like to have. If you drop them in the chat, we can put those on our agenda for a future meeting. All right. So let's go to See-Thru Backpacks. And so again, I want to acknowledge the fact that we have been having Our teams have been having conversations about see-through backpacks and other safety enhancements since actually the April-May time period. The problem with this announcement, I take responsibility for making the announcement in July. We should have made this announcement, quite frankly, in May. We should have known in June. We should have let you know in June that, hey, this is something that we wanted to do. That's just an oversight on my part, and I accept responsibility for that. 2 weeks is simply not enough time for you to make the adjustment. So I acknowledge that, and I definitely, we're working on how we can get through that. But I just want to start off by acknowledging that your feelings about the timing and the notification are absolutely right, and we're going to make that right. So that's why we're here today, to kind of listen. Also, I'm going to meet with a group of students at 3 today, and then I'll be meeting with more parents and family members also tonight at 6 o'clock. So we're gonna get that right. But the common concerns, we've looked at the social media, we've received emails, and really the comment, there are 5 themes that we identified. One was just the timing. The second one was the cost, and really timing and cost kind of go hand in hand, because I realize many of you have purchased backpacks, and so it's additional cost for you now to have to get a plastic or a see-through, a clear, or whatever kind of backpack. So we recognize that that's an issue. The other item that we heard that we was dealing with privacy, and then also personal items, and then also the effectiveness. We've heard several concerns about whether or not backpacks are really effective at reducing school shootings and other things. And so that's a common concern that we've heard. And then another common concern is an enforcement. How do you determine between a purse versus an athletic bag versus a backpack? And so we understand that those are all 5 concerns that we've heard quite a bit of. And so what we want to do now is just take a second to hear from you. If you have concerns that are outside of those 5 areas, definitely share those with us. Drop those in the chat, and we have people that are monitoring those concerns. But also, what I'd like you to do is to we're going to give you about 3 minutes. So I'd like you to just share with us, here's your concern, here's my concern, and then here's a solution. And so what we want is everyone taking the time, and our principals, I'd like you to do it as well. But I want us to just take some time to say, okay, we know what the challenge is, we know what the problem is, here's a solution. I want to hear from you. So let's take about 3 minutes. And Kirsten, if you can kind of put us on the clock and give us 3 minutes for the 345 participants on this Zoom to drop in the chat what your concern is, as well as your solution. Please make sure that if you share a concern, you also share a solution. Thank you all for that. Let's take a second to do that. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
We have about 1 minute left for your concerns and solutions there, and you can type them right down that Q&A box on the bottom of your screen.
Also, while we're doing that, Buckhalter or Kunchik or Moffitt, if you all can pull, I want you to lift 3 or 4 of the feedback, 3 or 4 solutions out and just lift them up for the group. All right, Moffitt, can you give us a few that jumped out at you that were shared on in the question and answer link?
Yeah, yes, sir. One of the questions that was posed was that why are we only doing metal detectors there at North Crowley High School? Again, that was piloted last year at North Crowley High School. However, going into this school year, we will do metal detectors at each of the high school campuses to make sure that we're ensuring safety of students on our high school campuses.
All right, Coach, you have one?
I do. Under clear backpacks, there's a recurring theme of a concern for theft, being that other students might be able to see the belongings inside of the clear backpack.
Absolutely, that's definitely a valid concern as well. So we can work through that one as we come up with possible solutions. Was there a solution submitted along with that?
No, there
Okay.
was not a solution quite yet. However, another one, sir, is lunch boxes. So there's a recurring theme also about clear lunch box. How do we handle lunch boxes? Gotcha. Okay. All right. Good. That's a good one. Okay. All right. Any UC Buckhalter?
Yes, sir. There's a couple about being able to, they've already purchased backpacks or the costs and everything. And a solution that I see on here was somebody mentioned about doing some fundraisers for backpacks to help add to the stash. So I thought that was a good solution. And if you want to speak to the time that they have to be in compliance.
Right. So so yeah, both of those are really good solutions. And we initially had said on Thursday night, we said that September 5th, but that's something that as we're hearing from people that could change. And so we'll take this information and really kind of make a good decision. But the way the policy was presented, the item was presented was it would be September 5th was the time for them to come into compliance. Moffitt, you have another one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Dr. McFarland, one of the other things that has been posed is that what they've done in researching clear backpacks, the size of those backpacks won't afford students the room to be able to carry all of their items. Gotcha.
Okay. All right. And so really making sure that if we do have, that the backpacks need to be kind of the standard size that they currently are right now. Otherwise, then they may be limited in what they can carry. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. All right. Was there a solution was a solution submitted also, Moffitt?
No, sir, not at this time. I'm kind of going through in terms of that, but not at this time.
Okay, all right. Buckhalter, looked like you had another one.
Oh, I have one, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Buckhalter.
No, there's just been some questions about personal products, feminine products, will they be able to? So I just wanted to have you address it about the smaller bag that's not cleared that can go inside the backpacks for those personal items.
Yes. Okay. All right. And that's something that we will address. But I think we did within this policy address the personal item the personal items issue. But you want to talk a little bit more about that, Buckhalter?
Yes, sir. And there was about 4 questions about that. Yes, young ladies, young men, they are able to carry their personal hygiene items or products inside of a smaller non-clear bag that is placed inside of the clear backpack, as well as inside of their purse or bag but it is subject to search, but they can still conceal those personal items.
All right, Ms. Kunchik.
Yes, thank you. So there's another recurring theme about backpacks that have already been purchased and mentioning even $100 backpacks. And so might we consider, they say as a solution, that we would allow those backpacks to be used and use the metal detectors to address backpacks that have already been purchased for those families that have already purchased backpacks that are not cleared.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And so the concern is still with the cost and the amount of investment already being made. And the solution was being able to figure out a way to allow them to use those as well as the others. Okay. All right. And so what we'll do, we'll take one more and then I'll kind of let you all know how we'll proceed from here. Do we have one more from the chat, from the question and answer?
Hey, Dr. McFarland, I saw a possible solution that was proposed by a parent. I thought it was clever and very logical, and that was it addresses the cost. They mentioned the if parents who may have cost concerns with purchasing new backpacks could sign up on a Google Doc or do some sort of sign up sheet for that. The district could assist some families who might be in need of that. They could do it based on how many backpacks they might be able to purchase ahead of time to help families in need, and a family could register to be a part of a group that would get looked at to be helped out. I thought that was a good logical solution from a parent on the chat.
Absolutely, because we know everybody's situation is a little different. So being able to create an avenue where people can be in compliance and maybe register, I like that idea for sure. Okay. Principals, any more? Either you could have heard it today, principals, or you could have been approached with question or challenge between or since Thursday. Any more from just principals in general that you'd like to share that you've heard from your parents?
Dr. McFarland, I noticed some just on the comments here that had concerns about the durability of a plastic or a clear backpack. One, I did a quick check on Amazon, which I'm sure probably most parents have been doing, and they do have some that are marketed as sturdier backpacks, clear backpacks. So those might be the way to go. Check those reviews. And also the concern of carrying your Chromebook around in those maybe not as durable backpacks at the middle school level, at least. If this is some reassurance, Chromebooks will not be assigned one-to-one. I know that doesn't help at the high school, but at the middle school level, the Chromebooks will be kept on campus in the teachers' classrooms. So they won't have that to worry about as they're selecting their backpacks.
Gotcha. All right. And I think Dr. Bell, I believe you had, thank you for Dr. Robbins for that information. Dr. Bell.
Yes, sir. Dr. McFarland, I see a common theme of the sporting backpacks, those that participated in sports. And so there was no solutions, but maybe getting with the coaches for lockers and different things of that nature. Okay. But I see a lot of people talking about sporting, those that are in sports. What should they do with their backpacks that have already been purchased?
Gotcha. Okay. All right. All right. And so again, I know there's still a lot, we have about 378 online. So I know there's people still getting on, and I want to make sure that we create the space and the time for us to collect all the concerns. And so my commitment to the group is that we'll look at these concerns and we'll look at the concerns and look at the possible solutions. And so what we do know is that we need to look at the process and the implementation of the clear backpacks more closely. And so we plan to do that. I plan to do that after we get done with today. We'll pull together a group and we will look at that. But I appreciate your feedback as it relates to clear backpacks. And we will come out probably by Thursday, actually, if not before, with kind of our assessment of what we need to do based on the feedback that we've heard up to this point relative to clear backpacks. Again, I just want to make the point. I think we all agree that school safety is priority, and we all doing the things that we can do to increase our safety. And so a clear backpack is one of the things that we believe will help us to mitigate some of the challenges with weapons or other foreign objects. We'll work out the details, and I will definitely get back with you as soon as we possibly can. But no, we'll maybe schedule another time to check in on this one pretty quickly. All right, so let's go to the next item, Kirsten. So the next item, metal detectors. As I mentioned earlier, we will be using the metal detectors at the high schools, both high schools for sure. And then also hand wands. These hand wands are mobile, and then we can take them with us, and we can move around with them. And so we definitely will use those. And the idea of metal detectors, quite frankly, is that they act as a deterrent, that people know that we'll use them. They may not know when we'll use them or what period, or whether we do it all day. That's something that we're working out, but we want parents to know, we want children to know that we do have the capabilities of doing metal detectors, and we will do it on a regular basis so that we can reduce the likelihood of any foreign objects entering into our campus. So as we were sharing feedback earlier, did we hear any concern or any solutions relative to metal detectors?
We actually, Dr. Farlow, I saw a lot of comments, suggesting that metal detectors were more effective than some of the other measures. And so the comments I've seen so far have been in support for the use of metal detectors.
Gotcha. Okay.
They have, and I saw that too, Mr. Kirchner. I also noticed one parent commented about building security and external buildings such as the ag barn. How do we move from metal detectors in the standard building and then those that are external to the building?
So yeah, that is the next step. When the classroom or the external facility is not connected to that main building, then it's more so the teacher, the hall monitor, the police officer, the security personnel. They will be responsible for actually monitoring those areas and making sure. But we don't have the capabilities, quite frankly, of having metal detectors at all of those different locations. That is really why it's important for us to have IDs, and we're going to talk about IDs later. But that's the most, really the most effective deterrent is an ID. So if we have a student with their IDs on, then we can know who's our student, who's not, and then consequently we can go from there. But we don't have the capabilities of having metal detectors at every external facility. All right. Let's move on from metal detectors. The other thing is, and Ms. Buckholt, I'd like you to speak a little bit to this one. Really, as we look at going forward, we really want to increase the awareness of bullying and really with the anti-bullying campaign, and making sure that we all are aware and really actively engaged in mitigating incidents of bullying. So Ms. Buckholt, share us a little bit about the anti-bullying campaign.
Yes, sir. So we will be kicking off our anti-bullying campaign. It'll be very student-led with the student leaders from both high schools as well as middle schools. Our goal is to increase bullying education and awareness for our students as well as our parents, improve our district reporting system, as well as our investigative protocols and our providing information and communication to the parents, both the alleged bullier or the alleged perpetrator as well as the victim. Parents will know from the onset of the investigation what the process is, as well as they'll know the outcome. And we will also be working with the Department of Guidance and Counseling to provide supports for the bully and the victim following the close of the investigation. Whatever social emotional needs that they have, we will be providing those as well at the campus.
All right, so let's, is there any questions about the bullying campaign and the anti-bullying campaign and reporting? Any questions about either bullying or metal detectors? Go ahead and take a second to drop it in the chat so we can be able to refer to that. All right, so if we see any there, if y'all definitely principals or district leaders, if you have anything you want to add as it relates to bullying or metal detectors, feel free to do that. If not, we'll go to the next item, Kirsten. So student IDs, this is one that I know it's something that's been common across the board, but it's one that we want to be very intentional about, with our campuses. High school campuses having students going back and forth to BRJ and then having campus, making sure that we have students moving around throughout the day. We want to make sure that we have a stricter, more consistent enforcement of our IDs. And so, Dr. Lane, I know we spoke earlier, and Mr. Brown, we spoke earlier about IDs today. So talk to us a little bit about what you're thinking, Mr. Brown first, and then Dr. Lane about IDs on your campus.
Good afternoon. My name is Amarian Brown. I'm the principal at Crowley High School. And so at Crowley High School and myself and Dr. Lane, and we both spoke about it. And so the idea is to ensure that we have all students with an ID so we are able to identify our students. If a student, every student at the beginning of the year will be given an ID, the initial ID, and that ID is to be worn around their necks. If a student has forgotten their ID, they will go and get a temporary ID, which the temporary ID will be $1. After the third one, we will then make a parent contact to inform the parent that the student has come to the school 3 times without an ID, and how important it is for them to get an ID. And once we make that initial contact, student will get another ID. After that initial contact with the parent, if that student, if it persists, then we will look to other measures to ensure that we're able to try to get the student an ID. But our goal is to ensure that kids are safe, and also, we are keeping kids in class. And so just ensuring that the identification is the most important thing for us at the high school. So, Mr. Lane.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Dr. Lane, anything you want to add about IDs and the importance of them?
Thank you, Dr. McFarland. The only thing I would add is just with our kids, there's so much transition happening at the secondary campuses, and that's really critical. Our kids are going to the 9th grade center back and forth. They're going to the CTE Center. So having on ID, not just when told, right? Not just when, hey, I've got to put it on to go into the classroom, but really keeping it on throughout the day as we see kids coming in and out. We have kids coming from the CTE Center, going to the CTE Center. So really, we want to encourage kids to wear IDs at all times so that we can not only keep them safe in the building, but as we monitor on the perimeters of the building, we can notice very quickly which kids are ours and who aren't. So I would also just reiterate that piece.
Absolutely. Dr. Williams or Dr. Bell, Dr. Robbins, anything you all like to add?
No, Dr. McFarland, I believe my colleague stated it beautifully, but our goal is to allow students to correct the behavior with the temporary ID. We want to get, have students in class. What I found is that it becomes a habit for students to wear their IDs, and sometimes they forget them or leave them at home, but it's once we start strong and maintain the fidelity, I believe that students will be on board.
Absolutely. And Dr. White, kind of what are some things that you do to encourage your students to be in ID, to wear their ID? And then what do we do to work with parents in order to get them if they can't?
We're always looking for ways to incentivize kids here, whether they're getting points or just little things. As they walk in, they can get, points on their house points that go towards various snacks and different things, just because we understand, external motivation, extrinsic motivation works. So that's one way. That's just one small way. We look for rewards even on Fridays. If you've worn your ID all week, then our campus is trying to look for a way, even if it's 15 minutes extra of some free time. But anyway, that's just a way that we've used that. But then students who we look for ways like to get them a temporary. They can sit with a different group at lunch, or they can pay $1 to sit back, like you have written there on the screen there. A temporary ID is $1. And then finally, you mentioned the replacement IDs for $5. But certainly trying to use the crunchy carrot in front of them to wear their IDs rather than using consequences. We're trying to use incentives and rewards for people doing the right thing.
Gotcha. And Dr. Warfield, I know you are getting students from 4 different campuses actually. And so talk to us about IDs and why they're important for you.
Well, to Dr. Lane and Mr. Brown's point, we definitely feel like the IDs is a way to keep all students safe, because we know that they are a CISD student and they are supposed to be on the campus when they're supposed to be on campus. And for us, we count it as a professional dress, just like our teachers are required to wear an identification on them because they are at work. Our CTE students are required to wear and be in professional dress, inclusive of their identification, particularly if they are going off-site to an industry employer. We want to make sure that they are going there and being safe as well. Another concern that IDs kind of help with is if anything happens on campus, any type of event that they have to be removed from the campus, we know exactly what student is on campus and we can account for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay. All right. Anyone else want to add to the conversation around IDs, metal detectors, or anti-bullying? All right, Kirsten, let's go to the next item. And then also parents and community members, students, if you have a concern or a solution as it relates to IDs or any of the things that we mentioned, what we're doing is we're monitoring the question and answer. I said chat earlier, but I meant the Q&A section. So we're monitoring that, and please drop it in the Q&A so that we can kind of lift up your concerns. So
Dr. McFarland,
let's go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Dr. McFarland.
problem.
I see one on here that I'd like to put on our radar, which is just bullying in athletic setting. So I just wanted to put that on our list of things to consider.
Absolutely. That is a good point, because we know a lot of our kids spend a lot of time in whether it's athletics or band or fine arts, but in these extracurricular groups and organizations. So it's definitely important for us to emphasize the need to address anti-bullying in those areas as well.
And Dr. McFarland, I see another parent that suggests that we make all parents aware of the Stop It app, maybe to do another push district-wide so that parents know how to access it and how to, let their children know how to access the app.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And we definitely, that's good. We definitely need to push that out there. So thank you for that. Whoever shared that information, thank you for that. Sometimes we'll assume that because we put it in place and it's there that people know. And so that's a good reminder for us to go back, especially at the beginning of the year, and just really make sure all parents are aware of that as well. So yeah, that's definitely. So question, I know that all of you principals, I know I passed by HF the other day, and I know there's a couple others that are having these parent meetings. You're having these back to school parent nights, parent meetings and all that. And so these are things that I know that we'll be addressing at those parent meetings, but it's important for you all parents to ask the question at these meetings. If we don't address it, make sure we ask the question about how we're addressing bullying, because that is something that we want to be on top of. And then again, as IDs and all these. So definitely thank y'all for that feedback.
And Dr. McFarland, I found this an interesting comment for the principals on ID badges. A proactive approach. A parent asked, can I opt to purchase an additional badge at the beginning of the year? And we practice giving one out, but this parent wants to get ahead of it. So that's for principals to think about, as for parents to be able to purchase an extra one at the beginning of the year.
All right, thank you for that. That's definitely good information. Thank you, Kunchi, for lifting that up. All right, so let's now go on to our dress code. I know, again, as Buckhalter shared the other night, we've had several teams of folks meeting, and one team dealt with dress code. So Buckhalter, why don't you talk a little bit about the dress code philosophy and kind of what we're doing as it relates to dress code?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to just say is that our dress code, after we looked at it, we had a great dress code. We changed the format a little bit to bring more specificity, but our dress code policy, with the exception of the clear backpack, has not changed. So our philosophy is we believe that all students should dress in a manner that's appropriate for the learning environment. And the purpose of our dress code is really to maintain safety, which we've talked a lot about here. And then in terms of coverage and things like that, is to limit distractions. And then we want to make sure that students are prepared for workforce attire expectations post-secondary. So that is the purpose. And so what we did was we looked at each dress category, each article of clothing category, and just kind of outlined what our expectations are. And so we had a couple of hot topics of enforcement that we have seen on our campuses, specifically our high school campus, who has a traditional dress code. You want to go to the next slide, Mr. Sure. Elementary and middle school will remain in standardized dress. With the exception of middle school's requirement of the clear backpack, they still will have that flexible selection of clothing. And so then elementary school students as well. And when we get to the high school dress code, they're in a traditional dress code. And so we just really cleared up that section of the dress code, what's allowable and what's not. So I really wanted to kind of talk to parents and just make them aware that we will be enforcing our dress code. Although nothing has changed, it may feel like a change to students who've kind of been allowed to have a lot more leniency with the dress code. So when we get to these next slides, I just want to lift a couple of things for each of the categories. So the first things that we want them to be in dress code starting the first day of school. Any violations, the campus administration will have a progressive way to handle that. So your campuses will orient you to their dress code policy when they have their open houses. Any type of deviation, if your child is in any type of specialized program, the sponsors and coaches and leaders of those programs will go into detail about what those deviations will be. And then, of course, the principal can deviate for incentivizing, and they can deviate from the dress code at their discretion. I know there was some question about headdress and things like that. We can and will be able to give students waivers that if they have to wear head coverings to protect their religious freedoms, they can do that, or anything that we have to change that will mitigate health conditions like with shoes or that have to be worn for some type of, example, foot issue. So we can have those. So the major
Ms. Buckhoff, can you hold on for a second? So Dr. Williams, so just talk to me about, like, on your campus on North Crowley Lane, dress code issues. So talk to us about how you deal with that, and kind of the way we would interact with students who are out of dress code, how we would deal with that, and so the parents will understand that.
Wow. Okay. So I'll try to give you a summary, but every year we have a assembly with our students to let them know what the expectations are. We send out parent communication to our families explaining the dress code. Every morning, we have staff members in the front of the building to address dress code. They very seldom make it in the building with a dress code issue. Now, that's not to say that students are not clever and will change clothes once they leave our campus. If we see a student that is out of dress code, we always give them, always give them the opportunity to address, to self-correct is what we say. And what we find is students have clothes in their backpacks from other students that they can borrow if something is up, but we give them that opportunity to self-correct. We also have a communities in school person on our campus with a clothing closet where students can pick tights to go under their pants or longer dresses, whatever the case is. There are times when students don't want to do that. They don't want to wear those clothes from CIS. Understandable. So we asked the student at that time to contact their parent to help us get them dressed. More times than not, that whole process takes us about less than 10 minutes to get them dressed. But when they see us standing at the door, it is amazing how you see the students self-correcting their behavior. We have a QR code that the student scans. And so we're able to keep up with the amount of times that we're having to get a student's dress code corrected. So if we see that there is a need there, then we're automatically sending our CIS person to the student's home. We're contacting our counselors because there may be a need that is bigger than what we see.
Right. And thank you, Dr. Williams. And I can definitely appreciate your approach, and really all of our principals' approach to, we want students in dress code, and we want them in school, and we want them in class. Like, when we're dealing with these issues are things that we need to deal with because they are standard. But we want them, the most important thing is that we want them in our class learning. And so our goal is that that any kind of dress code issue from an enforcement standpoint simply results in students returning the dress code as quickly as possible. Oftentimes, parents, it is critical that we can work together with you. Like, if we can work together with you, then we can get our kids back in dress code, back in the classroom as soon as possible. And so that's what our goal is going to be. And so we want to definitely keep their lines of communication open. Dr. Bell, I think you had something to share maybe with that.
No, I was just agreeing with Dr. Williams. We have
Okay.
the same processes in place. In addition to that, we also do a morning chat. Teachers at this time, please make sure that all students are in dress code, because we know as students are coming in, we may not catch them all as much as we try and we're stationed. But we also do it as a collaborative thing, as a family thing, so the teachers are accountable as well. So at this time, if in the first thing in the morning, we do those dress checks as well, just to make sure that we haven't missed any students.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, so excuse me, Ms. Buckhalter, you can move forward to the next one.
So some of the hot topics of enforcement, we've already talked about ID badges. We'll be requiring those ID badges, head coverings. There was a lot of questions about the hoodies. Yes, they can be on the shirts, but they cannot be on top of the head. Again, that's a safety issue where it could conceal a student's face. So we want to make sure we know who the students are, whether that's a hoodie or hat, no head coverings inside the building. Footwear was another safety issue. Wanted to make sure that students and parents knew that they cannot wear shoes that don't have an enclosed toe or a secured heel. So we have pictures here on the screen that really kind of illustrates what is allowable and what is not allowable. We know that the Crocs are really popular with the kids. Keep in mind, parents, that if the principal decides if Crocs that do not have a heel strap cannot be worn, and those that have the heel strap must be worn with the heel strap on it. And so those are the hot topics for those three. The next slide.
So let's stop there for a second.
Okay, sorry.
And Dr. Robbins, just talk to us about like HF Stevens. If you have students that are wearing hoodies, and how do you address, because hoodies are a popular thing now. We all, we all have them, and hoodies and hats in the building. That's just a normal part of our culture now. But how do you address those at HF Stevens?
At HFS, it's kind of a, like Dr. Bell alluded to, kind of a family, a cultural kind of thing on our campus where we say the expectation here is that you don't wear hoodies. So I think for a lot of kids, it's almost a habit. They don't even realize that they have the hoodies on. So we don't want to throw the book at them on the first or second time that they have the hoodie on. So it's just a matter of the teacher or administrator or whatever adult telling them to remove their hoods when they're in the building. If a student continues to put it on, if I've seen you after first and after third and after fifth, I might, because fortunately, it's usually pretty comfortable in the building, I might say, let me hold on to your hoodie and you can pick it up at this time. But there's no discipline referral that's written. There's no kind of consequence beyond they wouldn't be able to wear their hood at that time. As far as the Crocs, that's another issue where they like to we call it sports mode, have that strap in the back. And it's just, again, teachers, we do a dress code check in the morning, just like at CH9. But when we see them, we just ask the students to correct. And they're at the point now where when they see us in the house, walking around the house, they start fixing immediately. And one of the things that I do sometimes for a select few students is I put them on a Crocs probation, which means I've told you about this enough times now, and you know the expectation. So tomorrow you can't wear Crocs to school. Tomorrow you need to be in tennis shoes, some other enclosed, school compliant pair of shoes. And usually that's enough to make them understand, and they've complied. Whenever I put somebody, I call it a Crocbation. So when they're on a Crocbation, they don't get to wear their Crocs to school. And then the next day, they'll even tell their, hey man, here she comes, get your Crocs in sports mode. So I feel like instead of it being insubordination, for the most part with our kids, it's just, this is how they wear them. This is how they do their hoods. And it's just a matter of us reminding them that there's a different expectation while in the school building.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Robbins. And I think you kind of also alluded to some other things, like what we want to incentivize, we want to incentivize what kids want to do. Like if kids want to dress a particular way or do a particular thing, then we want them to have to earn the ability to do those things. And there's some things that we know that are acceptable and some things are not. And so these are things that we feel like will help us. When you talk about the hoodie, quite frankly, the hoodie's comfortable. but it's also hard to identify students if they have a hoodie on or hat on through our cameras and other things. And so everything that we do, really, there's a safety tent involved. The reason why we don't want kids with slides on it is if you're more likely to get a foot injury, whether it's some emergency or whatever, when you don't have the connections with your shoes and all that. So all these things are really about how do we ensure safety and how do we make sure we raise the standard for our students, and to know that when you're in school, there's a different expectation in our school buildings than when you're not in school. So Buck Halter, we can go on to the next one.
Another issue, hot topic of enforcement were shirts. Again, this is not anything new. However, just wanted to make sure that all shirts should cover the midriff or the tummy area you see in this first picture. There's a lot of discussion around sleeveless. So shirts could cover the entire crown of the shoulder. So as long as that part is covered, they're okay. So no tank tops or racerbacks, strapless or spaghetti. And then the shirts that are allowable, and this is really more specific to middle school, they are allowed to wear their school spirit shirt any day of the week. So we really encourage students to wear school spirit shirts, and that could be for any program or organization on the campus, as well as just a general school shirt. And I suppose that would also include their feeder school. Like if I'm a HF or RAM student and I want to wear a Crowley Eagle shirt, that is allowable. The same thing if I'm at Summer Creek or Crowley Middle School and want to wear a Panther shirt, that is allowable as well. So just making sure that students know that we want all of those parts of their body covered up for shirts. And
all
then,
right, thank you, Ms. Buckhalter. And parents, if you are students, if you have any concerns or questions about the things that we've shared as it relates to just really the focal points of our dress code, we definitely want you to drop those in the chat. Ms. Knox, I know you are new principal at Crowley Middle School. I know you're excited to get the year started. Is there anything that you'd like to add as it relates to dress code or enforcement or even incentives around appropriate dress?
Well, here at Crowley Middle, we have an incentive going that I spoke to with the sixth graders at orientation. The first 3 weeks of school, the grade level that is in dress code the most will earn a clean TikTok challenge party, where they will get to have clean TikToks, and we'll vote on who did the best TikTok, and they'll win the crown for that. But the grade level with the most students in dress code. So we'll be tracking that through a Google form that we'll do. Any student out of dress code will reduce the points for that grade level, and then we'll have a winner in 3 weeks.
All right. Well, good deal, Ms. Cox. We definitely, Ms. Knox, we definitely look forward to that. And I know one thing the parents that you may have heard us talk a little bit about is positive behavior intervention supports and really ways of incentivizing positive behavior. That's one of the things that we want to make sure that in our campuses and throughout our districts that we are looking at ways we can incentivize, reward, or recognize the appropriate behavior that we desire. We know that consequence and punishments, they have a place in changing behavior, but we know that they're not sustainable long-term. We know the long-term sustainable strategy is to really incentivize that appropriate behavior. And that's what we hope to do as we look at continuing to modify and really increase our standard as it relates to dress and behavior on our campuses. And so the other item I think that we have left on the item, on the agenda was really a future discussion. And we wanted to just get some feedback. We have been considering transportation. We currently we currently allow students to drive back and forth from the 2 high schools if they have classes at CTE building. And so we're looking at how we can really strengthen our safety protocols as it relates to that traffic back and forth from CTE buildings, from the CTE building and the high schools, and also just really being able to better control the flow of students in and out of the buildings that are headed to CTE. So I wanted to just stop and see if there was any, or ask parents if you have any questions or concerns about transportation, and particularly about students who take classes at CTE, but are actually in their home campuses at either Crowley High, North Crowley High, or North Crowley Ninth, or Crowley Ninth. Any questions or concerns about that group? Parents, if you have concerns about transportation and about students driving their own personal vehicles versus the district requiring students to ride a bus back and forth to CTE. If we'll take about a minute or two and allow you to drop those questions in the chat, and then we'll have a discussion about transportation from Crowley High, North Crowley to BRJ.
Dr. McFarland,
Yes.
there was a lot of questions about dress code that I don't think was answered. Will there be a Q&A somewhere where parents could maybe go later to get their questions answered so they don't feel like, we're not addressing those?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely, if you see them there, Belle, why don't you lift up some of those questions while parents, if you have questions about the transportation, go ahead and be dropping those in the Q&A. But Belle, why don't you go ahead and lift up a couple of those questions so we can address them if we can.
Okay, so the parents are asking, so my students are not allowed to wear sandals. They're asking about sandals again, the open toe. Really looking at the footwear. Also, someone said, can we eliminate the bonnets and pajama pants? And so we can go back maybe to talking about the dress code because it is in there. All right, can you notify parents when child is not in dress code? Some parents don't know the child is coming to school and changing.
Gotcha.
And so they're just still concerned about the process that they'll be used, that we will use to notify them, and just a couple of questions about, again, the footwear. So maybe just explaining to them where the dress code is and how they could find the dress code that has not really changed, but we may have parents that are new to the district.
Absolutely. So Buckhalter, would you kind of address where they can find the dress code and what is allowable as it relates to footwear? But two things. Number one, where parents can go today to find the dress code, and then what is allowable for footwear, and kind of why we allow that.
Okay, so I believe that the communications department is posting the draft, our one that was just passed on our website under parents and students, where it says the dress code in the alphabetical menu. And in there, it has the section for each item of clothing, including footwear, and it'll tell what is allowable. And then under each item of clothing, there's a bullet point that says what is not allowable. So let's see if he's put it on there yet. 23, 24. So yeah, it says middle school or high school. You can click the high school dress or middle school dress. So there he has it listed on here. So if you scroll down to footwear, as you see there, it has the first three bullets says what they have to have. And then footwear that's not allowed, there's three that has that. So it tells specifically, house shoes, slides, flip-flops, or any similar footwear. And that's in terms of the non-slip bottoms. And then of course, nothing that has any type of heel spur or steel toe boots, again, another safety item. And then any type of attachment that's for K through 12 that changes the function of the shoe. So if it's a shoe that turns into a skate, those are not allowable either. All the footwear exceptions and expectations are centered around safety. So in terms of sandals, if the sandal does not enclose the toe or secure the heel, they're not allowable.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Buckhalter. Belle, was there anything else that was listed there that we didn't address?
I think that's pretty much it, but also there were some parents saying we're still confused. So do they have to have clear or mesh backpacks, or can they just have their own backpacks and be subject to a search?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And so what I plan to do is we've captured the feedback this morning. We've captured the feedback from this meeting. I meet with a group of student leaders at 3 o'clock today. And then I'll meet with another group. I'll be also having another Zoom tonight from 6 to 7 with parents as well. After I've collected all that information, as a team, we'll get together and we will review the backpack policy that or the backpack procedure that we approved the other night. And if there's any kind of modifications to that procedure, then we will have Kirsten, let's set up a Zoom call for Wednesday at 12 at this same time, and then also at 6 on Wednesday. So if there are any modifications that we need to make, which there will be, based on the feedback that we received. There will be some modifications, but I want to wait till I hear the feedback from students and other parents. And then on Wednesday, we will share with you what those modifications are. And then hopefully we'll be able to kind of move forward. Again, I just want to tell you, we gave this slogan called act like a family and work like a team. And so, the family, we take care of each other, and sometimes we get it right, and sometimes we don't. And when we mess up, we accept that. I acknowledge the fact that the timing put families at a disadvantage and put some unnecessary stress. And so we're going to address that piece. But when we talk about working like a team, what we do is we determine, okay, what's the goal? The goal for us is to ensure a safe and secure environment for all of our children. And that when you send your kid to us, we're able to return them back to you, educated and safe and secure. That's what we got to do. And so as a team, we start this year off. What I really want us to do is we're going to be vigilant about making sure that we are enforcing our standard for safety and security and just our standard of dress. And parents, we just simply need your help. And so we appreciate you. I appreciate this time. And I know that we said it would go from 12 to 1. I'm willing to stay on, Kirshner, for as long as parents are available. I'm willing to stay on, but I know others may have to go. And I want to try to address as many of the questions as we can today, but we'll have definitive answers as it relates to clear or mesh backpacks on Wednesday. All right. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you all for being online. Thank you, principals, for jumping on. I know y'all are busy getting school started, so thank you for jumping on. Again, I will see you all a little later. Thanks. Have a good day.